This being the first solo trip of 2025, I've always been thinking to myself, like, am I in the right position right now? Am I doing what's meant to be done? Oh, more cats. Go outside of your comfort zone as well, because I don't think you'll experience those times where you have to be open-minded if you're not outside of your comfort zone. Because if you're always in your comfort zone, then you're going to be stuck in your own ways of thinking, I feel. Just go for it, whatever your heart desires. 26th of January 2024, the date that I embarked on this journey, with my first destination being Edinburgh. And today I'd like to kind of touch on my experience in getting there, how I felt, and a few little stories about what kind of made that trip special to me. Now, as you've seen from the intro and the previous video, I have this little book here. And this was a book that I got at one of the markets in Edinburgh, and it kind of holds a little special place in my heart. You know, with my additional idea to this project was to kind of journal and do a whole load of kind of written stuff along with photos to kind of compile into a book for the end of it. So I started journaling in this and soon realised the book's that small and like the pages are kind of awkward to open and write in, so I didn't get very far. I've actually wrote on one page, and what have I wrote here? So I think I wrote this during Edinburgh. So the journey began with no real itinerary, which is actually very true. I had one destination I wanted to visit when I got to Edinburgh, and that was the Milkman Cafe. Basically, someone that I was doing a bit of work for told me that they loved this cafe and it looked really kind of aesthetic and things, so that was the first place I had to go visit. But backtracking a little bit, before I actually got to Edinburgh, you know, I chose Edinburgh because it was somewhere I always wanted to go. The architecture, the kind of gothic vibes of the city at times, it's just incredible. Like, it's got so much history, it's rich in history, and there's just so much to it. But then that leads me to getting to Edinburgh, so I ended up getting really cheap flights. I think it was around £30 on the dot, maybe around that, for a return flight from Belfast International. And I drove up there, parked up the car. The car park was actually more expensive than the flight itself, which I didn't mind. Of course, the flights were cheap, so it was my first ever solo trip. I was going to, you know, go out and have a bit of fun. And I was extremely excited about this adventure because, you know, I'd never done it before. You know, I travelled on my own to go visit my cousin over in Austria, but I'd never actually travelled on my own to stay at a hostel and to, you know, just socialise and be around other people. And this really was the trip that kind of sparked that travel bug within me and pushed me to keep doing more and more and more. And I was so lucky that this first trip was probably one of the best I've been on so far, which I think has kind of put my expectations pretty high, but thankfully I didn't hold on to those expectations going to my other trips. I went into every single trip with an open mind of new experiences, new things to see and witness and do, basically. So yeah, going back to the Milkman Cafe, that was the first destination I had. So once I flew into Edinburgh, I was able to get a bus into the city centre, which was about, I think, £10 for a return ticket. Fairly reasonable. Now, it was awkward to find the bus stop, come on back, but we got it in the end. I just had to run around and ask some locals like a headless chicken, hoping I don't miss it. And yeah, so when I went into the cafe, I kind of had a little thing in mind. So as this was the only destination on my itinerary, I had no clue what I was going to do after. Obviously, Edinburgh's such a beautiful place, so I could go to so many little destinations and, you know, take some pictures and just chill. So I decided to go in and get a coffee. I think I got a wee mocha or something, you know. It was absolutely Baltic over there, so I wanted to warm up. Went in there and I was like, you know what, I'll give myself a challenge. Rather than just going on Google Maps or Google and looking up best places to eat, I'll just go in the cafe and ask the people working there, you know, where they recommend to go. So after getting my coffee, I asked for a few recommendations for lunch because I was getting quite peckish. And they gave me these directions, you know, go up the hill, take a left, keep going straight, and take another left. You'll appear at this, I don't know, kind of random looking thing. I can't remember exactly what they said, but it was something on the lines of that. Well, long story short, I got lost. Ended up taking random little routes, got sidetracked by these cool little alleys. And I remember like walking across a bridge and I was taking a few photos because it looked pretty cool. And like I hear this like older couple beside me saying, "Oh, look at the cow, look at the cow." And I'm sitting there like, what, there's a cow in this city roaming these streets? And then I'm looking around like a headless chicken once again, trying to see where this cow is. And out of nowhere, I look into the wall, and there's just half a cow just stuck in it. Obviously, it's like an ornament or something. Not an ornament, but kind of like a, what's the word? Not a statue, but you know what I'm trying to say. And half it was just stuck into the wall, and then, you know, its backside was just sticking out, and the udders and everything were there. So I took a picture of it, and then I looked at the couple and just burst out laughing. I just found it so funny. But yeah, like, this is the reason I get sidetracked. There's so many random things will happen, and I don't really know where I'm going, but I'm loving every second of it. And then I end up finally stumbling across the place I think they recommended. Went in there and it was extremely posh. I can't lie. I think I spent a lot of money for what was it? Some like, what do you call those eggs? Poached eggs on like sourdough or something with avocado. Way too fancy for me, I can't lie, and it was quite expensive. If there's a place in, I guess, Scotland doing lemonade, like a freshly made lemonade, like the American lemonade, you're going somewhere a bit pricey. But I was like, you know what, first trip away, I may as well spend a little bit. I'd been saving for quite some time to do this entire project, so I decided to myself, well, may as well just splash out for the first one, enjoy it a little bit. So getting there and everything else was all on budget, but then the money I probably spent over this weekend was a lot more than anticipated. So going into my next adventures, I definitely had to be more strict around my budget and how much I was spending. And then yeah, after I got some grub on me, I continued walking, and my next destination was to go and visit this historical kind of destination called Calton Hill, and it looked absolutely stunning from what I could see from afar. So I started walking towards it, and on my way there I kept getting sidetracked with all these little beautiful alleyways, and I seen like these two colourful girls. I mean, like the most colourful girls I'd seen this entire trip so far, and they were sitting there kind of I think just recording videos or photos for like social media purposes. And I was like, you know what, let's challenge myself. I'll go up and introduce myself to them, get chatting to them, and they were absolutely lovely. I offered to take a few photos for them because one of them like kind of owned a fashion business where she'd design clothes and everything. They were getting content for some new fits that she'd created, so I was like, you know what, I'll take a few photos of you, why not, I'll be kind. She then said to me, if I'm to call into her shop and everything whenever I get a chance. Sadly, I completely forgot and kind of got sidetracked by all the other events that happened in this trip, so I didn't get making it to the shop, but I kept her in mind. I sent her with the photos and they're very happy, and it was just such a nice way to start this journey. And then once I arrived at Calton Hill, it was breathtaking. It was super, super windy, but to be able to see Edinburgh from a bit of a height and just look over it all was just stunning. Like, I think I stayed up there for nearly an hour just taking photos and just chilling and taking it all in, really. And then again, I seen someone sitting on a rock, and they just looked majestic the way they were sitting. And I was like, when I introduced myself once again, I was like, well, would you mind if I take a quick photo of you? Just to post send to them. I don't have any intention of using it elsewhere. And then I do that now. To some people, this probably comes across weird, but for me, in my head, it's like I have real bad social anxiety at times. So trying to get outside my comfort zone and do these kind of things helps me. And I guess just having the camera gives me that extra bit of comfort. It gives me a reason to go up and approach people. Which I guess I should probably put the camera down sometimes, just approach people that way. And it's probably more of a challenge, but I can do that in the future. But yeah, just in case it's coming across me sort of a bit strange, random photographer going up and asking people for photos. But that I know when I see something cool, I capture it, and they're always happy with it. So that's the main thing. But yeah, I'm rambling on so much. But after Calton Hill, basically, I started to get towards my hostel, and then I started walking up the Royal Mile, I think it was called. I could be wrong. The real famous road in Edinburgh. Walking up it to go kind of see the castle. And I'm just down there and I'm taking photos, and then I realised I was taking the photo, and I realised there was a guy standing behind me waiting for me to take it, and I thought he was going to chat to me, but he was just not trying to get in the way, and he's like, oh, I'm a photographer too, and I know how it feels when people walk in front of your photos. And I'm like, oh, thank you very much, have a nice day. That was it, because he just kept walking on. And then I'm walking up, I kind of see him, like almost like seeing everything I'm seeing too, taking photos of. And then we're going to go down this little alleyway, and then next thing you know, he comes in too. And we kind of like bump into each other walking in. And then we both look in, we're like, oh, hello again. We both look in the alleyway, and it's just crowded with people. So I look at him, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm going down there. And he's like, yeah, I think I'm not either. So then I'm like, okay, introduce ourselves, and yeah, we just kind of cracked it off. From there, I had no plans to do anything. He had an entire itinerary of where he wanted to go and visit. So I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. Why not? Why not? So he had all these little spots. We went around taking loads of photos. Went through the university area, some stunning photos and buildings over there. Went up to the castle, got a lovely view of that. And just kept down and round, just catching up with him. And he had travelled to all over the show. He was from Indonesia, an absolute legend. And funny enough, a good few months later, he actually ended up coming to Belfast. So I showed him around here, just before he headed back home, because he was studying in the UK. And we just had a cracking time, whenever he came over to Belfast. He wanted to try a lot of the kind of traditional things here, so I got him some Guinness, Irish coffee, what else was baby Guinness, oh, and of course they tried Irish stew and stuff. But yeah, I'm going on a massive tangent, and yeah, this is what I love about doing this kind of project, because I get to sit back and reflect, and it brings all these memories back to light. But for future videos, don't worry if this is kind of not your kind of style or what you're expecting. I will be thinking about doing more of these kind of videos whilst I'm in the other countries and not the other destinations, so that it's not always in the same kind of location. Even though I quite like the setup I've got going on here, I don't want it all to be the same. So I might even just have little clips of me sitting here speaking to kind of piece it all together for future videos. But for this one, simply because I didn't take any real video footage, I don't have much to work with, bar the photos. So that's why I've been popping up loads of photos and stuff like that, just to keep it exciting and interesting. But yeah, just wanted to fill you in on that, to give you an idea of where this kind of project is going visually. So yeah, walking around, getting to know my man much better, and then he takes me to this place called Dean's Village. It was just incredible. Like, it was just beautiful, like a little kind of river running through it, all these old, picturesque looking buildings, just an absolute stunning area. I can't emphasise it enough. If you're ever in Edinburgh, you have to go visit this place. It was in the old town side of Edinburgh, so it was just beautiful. Walked along there and captured some stunning images, and we just had so many great conversations about travel. As this was my first trip, he was giving me loads of places to go to, loads of advice for travelling, and yeah, and then I was giving him loads of advice about photography and stuff, because he was just kind of starting out. And the main thing I found for him, I was like, you know what, the best way to learn a camera is just slap it on manual. If you're using it on auto, you're not going to understand anything that's truly going on with it unless you watch videos. But if you put it on to manual, maybe watch a few videos, read a few tutorials, etc., you'll get a quick understanding of how it all works. And then it's just trial and error, like trying different settings in your camera to see what captures the best photo for you in the environment you're in. So yeah, we literally just walked around. He had like this little pub he wanted to go to at the end of the day. Went there, got a good few pints in us, and just kept having the crack and everything. He was showing me all his pictures from travelling. He had one with the Northern Lights, and that was something I really wanted to see. It was like, for that 1 year, it was the one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Iceland, Norway, any of the Scandinavian countries, and try and see the Northern Lights. And funny enough, literally the week before I headed away to America last year, the Northern Lights appeared in Northern Ireland, and we ended up seeing them. And I got a few photos on the phone, and it was just incredible. I no longer had to travel across seas to go see it. So yeah, after that, I decided to head up to the hostel to check in. It was probably late enough in the evening. I'd say it was probably around 7 or 8, probably around 8, probably I'd say. Because when I got in, the place was called Castle Rock, literally right beside the castle, and it was 15 quid a night, absolute bargain. And I was in like a dorm, I think, with 2, 4, 6, there were 6 of us. And as I go into the castle, it's got like this big metal gate, like to kind of replicate, the castle gate, etc. And they have a buzzer that opens it and everything. They've got big knights in shining armour, statues and all sitting around, and it's just real castle-y and historical vibes. It was sick. And so yeah, I check in, the staff was absolutely incredible, really, really helpful. Got everything sorted for me, then went up to my room, and then I met the 2 roommates in there. We started cracking it off, and they mentioned something about a pub crawl. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, man. May as well socialise and have a few beers anyways. So went in the pub crawl, had a bit of crack. I remember at the start I was just really awkward at things, you know what I mean? Because everyone had kind of known each other, and I was that new kind of blood in there. And it took me a while to kind of ease up and get into the flow of things, but then being on this pub crawl, loads of different hostels kind of like click into this one pub crawl at one point, so there's probably like 30 to 40 of you going around and just having a blast. I couldn't even tell you the pubs we went to. I just remember Big Frankenstein at one point, and we were in a ball pit at one point doing madness, and yeah, it was really exciting, I can't lie. And then I got really close with the roommates I was in. Again, they were giving me loads of tips. They were from Australia, Canada, and a few from Spain, and they were just super, super dead on. We had a great few nights, and I was just there for the weekend. It was just like a little taster for this solo travelling idea. And yeah, there was one memory I have, we were actually kind of, having a bit of fun, having a few drinks, and I think we got the tequila out, and then, like, I had a real bad habit of kind of mingling with everybody in the hostel, and, I would tell someone, oh, I'm away to go toilet, or I'm away to do this or that, and I'll be like 5-10 minutes, and then I'll get sidetracked and start chatting to someone else for another 20-30 minutes, and then there was one occasion where we were all getting ready to go out or something, and I think they'd just headed out to the pubs, and I said I need to go grab something from the room, like a jacket or something, and so they all went out to the pubs, and I think I had a few drinks at this point, and I remember walking in, and there's these 2 Spanish girls in our room who I hadn't chatted to before, haven't met, I don't think. So I introduced myself to them and kind of just sat down, just started chatting to them for like, I think nearly 2 hours, and we had like such great crack. And then out of nowhere, my other roommates ended up coming back in after being back from the pubs. And I'm just sitting there like, wait, what time is it? What's going on? And I just remember just laughing like I've never laughed before. Like, I think at that point we were all trying to sleep, and I couldn't sleep. I kept just muttering random things to myself, and we all just started bursting out laughing for a good hour or 2. So it was a beautiful memory. Like, I still don't think I've laughed as hard as I have in Edinburgh to this date. Just the quality of people, the quality of experiences, and the memories I've made there have been incredible. And it was an absolute beautiful way to start this project. And I just want to thank everyone that made my first solo trip so memorable and so exciting, you know. So yeah, then that leads me on to Valencia. So I went to Valencia on the 8th of February this year, 2025, and had another brilliant time. My flights to Valencia were £40 return from Dublin, and the air coach from Belfast to Dublin was like 25 quid. So a total of 65, then the hostel was 15 quid a night, included breakfast for £4.40, €4.40, sorry. Quite a steal, you know. And Valencia was such a beautiful place to visit. The architecture, you know, especially I think it's called the Queen Sofia Place of Arts, was just absolutely stunning. They had the big opera house there, and it almost looked like it was in the shape of some sort of fish or a helmet of some sort. It just looked really, really, really aesthetic. Even when you walked along the kind of bridge on the motorway beside it, looking down on it was just incredible. And then like they have this massive big kind of garden which you can walk through, and just being able to walk through that's like all kind of a art museum as well in the middle. I didn't get going to it, but walking through it felt like an art museum with the architecture. It was just beautiful, beautiful. And then I ended up going to Oceanographic, which is their aquarium. I think it's the largest one in Europe. And yeah, like Valencia was just incredible. And I think the main thing, you know, I didn't socialise too much in Valencia because I had a lot of work to do. So I was kind of trying to balance the two, you know, during the day I'd work, and then during the evening I'd kind of just catch up with people and get to know them. I'd kind of do work blocks as well, which is kind of cool. So I'd work block in one cafe, and then walk around and do some sightseeing to kind of balance the two. So I'm, you know, hitting the two birds with one stone basically. And you know, once I was walking through Valencia, like the old town in it and the cathedral was just incredibly stunning. You know, trying to think of like how they created all these buildings and the architecture behind it back in those times, just mental. Like I don't think you'll see buildings like it nowadays. Everything's so modern, but seeing the real historic buildings that have so much history behind it is just incredible to see. So, and yeah, so as I mentioned, I was trying to have like a kind of work-life balance with this kind of trip. I met someone in the hostel one morning, got chatting to him, and he said how he went to this lovely rooftop bar the night before. And I was like, yeah, why not? Bring a laptop with me and get a bit of work done as well. So I went in, you had to pay like 8 quid to get up. I was worried I wasn't looking too fancy. Go up there, get myself a wee drink and whack out the laptop. And then begin to kind of start my work. I ended up meeting this amazing Irish couple. We kind of sat there and chatted for hours and hours and hours. I even actually recorded a little clip of me afterwards, you know. I think I was a good few pints deep, so, you know, I may be a little bit muttery with my words, but yeah, this is what I had to say. I went to this rooftop bar with the true intention to maybe have a beer or two and just work away. I was trying to clean the monitor off my screen, it was so dirty. And then this couple beside me, from the south, ended up giving me this like handkerchief to clean my screen. Once that was done, I said, cheers, thank you very much. And they're like, where are you from? Where are you from? And then just kind of shared a little bit about myself. And so did they. And then we just went into a very deep conversation that lasted about probably 3 to 4 hours. They were such good crack, but the things they were telling me just enlightened my perspective on a lot of things. You know what I mean? Like, I've always been thinking to myself, like, am I in the right position right now? Am I doing what's meant to be done? But the way they put it to me was that just what I'm doing right now makes sense. What I'm doing right now, I can generally understand, if that makes sense. And what I'm trying to, I guess, that's a wee cat. Sidetracked here, but look, this wee pretty cat. Let's go. There's so much you could be doing right now, but what's stopping you from doing it? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many reasons to be doing what you're doing, but there's also so many reasons you could be doing what you're not. So my one bit of advice going forward is to just do what you truly believe in. Whatever sparks that fire in your heart, go for it. Just go for whatever your heart desires. And the biggest takeaway from what they were saying to me was, the world will throw so many things at you that you have to look at and be like, okay, this has happened to me right now because of this, because of that. Yet, you don't have to look at it in such a negative view. You can look at it in a view that is like, okay, this has happened to me now because I need to be prepared for the next thing that's going to happen to me, if that makes sense. And I think that's the biggest thing about these little trips away is there's always one takeaway. One person I meet, one couple I meet, one group of people I meet, or one thing I experience really sits on you for that entire time when you're looking back. That was my 2 cents, and I think that can somewhat help someone looking on. So yeah, in Valencia, day 2 takeaways, bosh. And then, yeah, the funniest bit, like after this entire night, the next morning, they had already previously told me they're going to visit a castle. So I was like, okay, pretty cool. And I'm walking through the garden, just kind of chilling, just enjoying everything, just taking it easy, looking at all the orange trees and everything. And they had the best fruit, the best oranges I'd tasted in such a long time as well. Incredible. But out of nowhere, I'm like at this bridge and I look behind me and I can kind of see these big, two tall like towers, and they were called the Serranos Towers, I believe. Yeah, the Serranos Towers. So yeah, I'm going up these towers and walking in, just taking it all in, walking up a good few steps, getting bunched, you know, trying to work off that alcohol I drank the night before. And out of nowhere, I get to this little platform of it, and who's standing there? It's the couple from last night. And yeah, just catch up with them, see what the crack is, and just part ways real quick. But I can't lie, like like they were such inspiring people for me to have met on this trip, and I think they were the highlight of it. I can't lie, you know, I did so much reflection and looking back on what they'd said to me and what I'd said to them, and you know, just the words we'd exchanged and how they put everything into a different perspective to me, and how I did the same for them at certain points too, which I found really, really interesting. And it was just such a beautiful evening to have spent, and to see them the next day was just so funny. Yeah, like that was the majority of Valencia. You know, I went down to the coast one day, you know, got some amazing paella, but made the mistake of reading on the menu, and it was like €17 for the paella. And I was like, okay, that seems pretty reasonable. That's a bit expensive, but hey, we'll still get it. It is paella. The one thing I wanted to do was go to Spain and get a paella, because it's what I just love seafood. And so I order it, and then I finish it. I don't know how, but I devoured it, because, and on the menu it said per one person, and it says like min order 2 people, but I never thought in my head that, you know, the €17 was for one person, which brings it to a total of like €32, or sorry, €34 or something. So I'm sitting there enjoying life. They bring out this massive big bowl, and everybody's just looking at me. And I'm sitting there like, okay, it's going to be a struggle, but we start digging into it, devouring it. I think maybe like half an hour later, I finally get through it. And then I go up to pay the bill, and the bill came to like 50 odd euro or something. And I'm just sitting there like, well, geez, that is nearly triple the budget that I had for food today. And then, yeah, that kind of brings my trip to an end, basically. You know, I'd met so many brilliant people in the hostel. You know, I'd set up plenty of nights and chatted away with them. You know, we had a whole conversation one night where there was a guy from Russia, America, the Netherlands, where else, China. And, yeah, it just got mad political, going into all the historical events that had happened in each country. And it was just an interesting conversation. And, yeah, I guess now it's just comparing the two trips. So I actually made a video about this already whilst I was on the coast of Valencia, so I will cut to that right now. Currently in Valencia, it's our last day here, and the sun has came out and it's shining. Currently just going for a coastal walk along the beach, and it is absolutely beautiful. But I think the main thing I wanted to chat about in this wee vlog is basically comparing this being the first solo trip of 2025 to my first ever solo trip last year, which was to Edinburgh in January 2024. And I guess just, I don't know, just what I've learned. I've progressed and grown from what we've been doing, because in all honesty it's been a quality adventure so far. So just wanted to share a little bit about that with you. Well, the biggest value I probably took away from this trip alone has been the fact just to be more open-minded, you know, about the conversations I'm having, and just let everything happen as it is, truly, you know. But when being open-minded, you know, go outside of your comfort zone as well, because I don't think you'll experience those times where you have to be open-minded if you're not outside of your comfort zone. Because if you're always in your comfort zone, then you're going to be stuck in your own ways of thinking, I feel. You're always going to be thinking either the worst about certain adventures, and that's maybe stopping you from going. But I'd say if you're thinking that way, then you just got to get out there and experience it, you know, and just being able to have nice open conversations with people who you've never even met before, strangers, you know, and soon come, you end up befriending them. You know, all these experiences you have in life, some of them are meant to be, and obviously some unfortunate events aren't meant to be, but you get lessons taught from them and things like that. And I think if you're just in the right place at the right time, certain times, and you are open-minded and you go outside your comfort zone, the amount of things you'll learn from that is just truly incredible. Truly incredible. But in comparison to this time last year when I was in Edinburgh, I'd say the biggest difference I've seen to get outside of my comfort zone is honestly speaking to the camera more. You know, just walking around, basically chatting to yourself and whoever's at the other end of the screen, and just sharing little bits of wisdom, little golden nuggets, and just how I'm feeling. You know, I remember being in Edinburgh and I spent a lot more money than I expected, simply because it was just incredible, you know what I mean? And I went out, and I can't lie, I drank a lot, you know, like we were going on pub crawls, just having fun nights, going to the clubs and stuff like that, whilst this time around in Valencia, I've kind of told myself I'm not going to drink too much, you know what I mean, and I haven't. I honestly haven't. I might have the odd beer or two in the sun and just enjoy it, and just have dinner, and just have a good jolly old time. But like, I haven't went out to bars with people or at clubs. You know, I've kind of had a few drinks in the hostel, maybe one or two people, caught up with them, went out for food, and just kind of had a bit of crack, you know what I mean. But I've shared a few beers with a few others and just got really insightful kind of conversations out of it, so it's all been worthwhile. Not saying it wasn't worthwhile last year when I was out in the boozer, but it's definitely a different change of mindset I've got. If there's anyone watching this that's on the fence about solo travelling, you know, maybe your soul's been getting fired up by the idea of doing it, I want you to sit down and think, like, what is the main reason stopping you from doing it? Is it financial reasons? And if it is, are you going out every weekend? Or are you going out once a month? And I mean going out to clubs, drinking, bars, pubs, whatever it is. I want you to do this one thing, right? So if next time you go out drinking in your hometown, wherever it is, take a tally of how many drinks you have and add it all up and see what that amount comes to. Because I've travelled here in Valencia for €40 and my hostel costs €15 a night. And for breakfast, it's €4.40. That includes unlimited coffee, apple juice, orange juice, fruit, sandwiches, enough to get you fuel for the day. And you could go on a budget with €10 a day and that'll get you fed, you know what I mean? So ideally, for a trip away, you could get away with €100 for a weekend. And if that's close to what you're spending on a weekend out, you know, just rethink it. Just rethink what you're doing. And if it is truly something you want to do, then put a bit of money aside every week. And soon come for next month, you'll be able to travel away, you know? But yeah, that's my little golden nugget of insight now. Hopefully it inspires some of y'all or gives you some ideas of how I do all this. And yeah, I guess to conclude this video, you know, both trips were so amazing but so different on too many levels. And I think the biggest thing is that throughout this journey, you know, last year I went down and I kind of just enjoyed myself a lot. You know, I didn't really think about the work-life balance. I did bring my laptop and do work on some of the trips, but more so I was just going out there and loving the experience of travelling on my own. Whilst now it's kind of finding that work-life balance, because obviously when I'm travelling I'm still having to work. So, you know, I still enjoy myself. I still have amazing crack and get to know a lot of people, but it's just having more of a mindset where, you know, I'm still being as productive as possible while still enjoying life to the fullest. And I think that's the biggest difference. You know, I think I was just enjoying life to the fullest last year, but not having that productive side to it. Whilst now I'm just being smarter about what I'm doing, where I'm going, and how I'm working, you know. So it's a beautiful kind of thing to see, because in the future, if I want to travel even more after this project, I can do, because I've created this lifestyle for me, which, you know, if there's anyone watching this video that's like, has a little side hustle or has something they feel is calling them to do and they're passionate about, give it a shot, you know what I mean? Like, the only thing you're going to lose is that little bit of respect for you in 10 years' time if you look back and you never did what you said you were wanting to do. So that's just my little piece of advice. Do what's in the back of your head. You know, if you're sitting dreaming about it, thinking about it most days for like a year or two, you gotta get at it. It's that one thing that's gonna be your breakthrough. So yeah, and then that brings me to the end. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do tell me down in the comments below. Make sure to leave a like on the video too, and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll always be reminded when the next video goes live. But the next one will be going live on the 12th of next month, so keep peeled for that. And if you can guess where I'm heading this month in the comments below, I'll buy you a pint, or a coffee, or a tea, whatever you fancy. But just one beverage. Just one beverage. And yeah, lastly but not least, make sure to follow the Instagram and Facebook just to keep up to date with where I'm going and what's happening. Thank you guys so much for watching. I sincerely appreciate your time. And as I said previously, not all videos are going to be like this format. This is just the first one. And yeah, have a splendid day, guys, and thank you very much. Take it easy.